Potter.
Scottie B going to work in the paint.
Eastern Conference Final. New NBA champion. And it's a team from Toronto, Canada. We the North are now we the champions.
What is going on, Raptors Nation? It is Luca here, back with the Raptors Nation podcast. Hope you're all doing well. In today's episode of the pod, we're going to take a look at Scottie Barnes, who is back. Scottie Barnes pulling off the miraculous comeback, coming back sooner than expected. We're going to be taking a look at the race to the bottom, because that is what this season has felt like it's becoming. It's going to be about the lottery. It's going to be about draft positioning and all that fun stuff, right? And then finally, we're going to take a look at Bruce Brown's trade value. Very interesting update by an NBA insider that I wanted to touch on in today's show. Do me a solid, everybody. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And be sure to leave this a 5-star review wherever you get your favorite podcast. You can find this on Apple iTunes and Spotify. The Raptors Nation podcast coming to you every single week, usually on Thursdays. But again, when the Raptors play on Thursday, I just push it back a day and drop it on Friday. So the Raptors, they will have 2 more days off before they have a back-to-back, and then they're going to have another 2 days off for the holidays, as there's been a lot of time off in between these games, and that has helped a miraculous comeback happen, as Scottie Barnes returning from that right ankle injury just 2 games after he suffered the injury, when it was initially reported by ESPN Shams that Scottie Barnes was going to be gone for several weeks. Shams, got to get it right when it comes to the Raptors. We all remember that infamous slip-up when he announced the Raptors were trading for Damian Lillard, and then he quickly deleted it. Another blunder here, as Shams reporting that Barnes was going to be out indefinitely, out at least out several weeks. His words, not mine. And Scottie Barnes just misses 2 games. So it was really a rapid recovery, and good news for Scottie Barnes that it wasn't serious. He is only able to miss 2 games because the Raptors had so many days off in between. And now he can still have a chance at that All-NBA and extra payday if he, of course, puts together just incredible numbers from here on out. But it was nice to see Barnes back, and he said it feels pretty solid. Yeah, and it looked to be like a very bad injury. That's the thing, like, very fortunate break for Barnes and the Raptors, because when Barnes, when he came down hard on Karl Anthony Towns' foot, he was immediately down in discomfort and pain. And he actually said, I can't feel my foot. So, like, you automatically thought, like, this is going to be serious. I thought it was going to be serious. I did a separate video saying, like, that's it. Barnes not going to be back, at least until the All-Star break. Like, I thought Barnes was going to be out at least until, like, middle of January. And here he is back, just missing 2 games. But he said getting a lot of good movement on it. So he was progressing. He was practicing, and then it was announced a couple days ago that he was upgraded to questionable. So there was a really good chance that Barnes was going to play in that Thursday night game against the Nets. And of course, he played in that one. So Barnes, he avoided something very, very bad. And this is a Raptors team that has not caught many breaks this season. So speedy recovery is definitely a big one. And the Raptors, we know how much of a worse team they are without Barnes. They were 2-11 without him prior to the game against the Nets, and he's definitely going to, bring some much-needed playmaking, defensive versatility, and we already saw the boost he brought offensively. But, of course, we didn't get the typical Scottie Barnes stat line as he eases his way back from his latest injury. He had 16 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, and, of course, it was not enough, as the Raptors, they lost to the Brooklyn Nets, another team that's in all likelihood going to have their sights set on the lottery, because it looks like the Nets are headed for a fire sale. They just traded Dennis Schroeder. They're probably going to make some other big trades and really position themselves as one of the worst teams to get a top pick in the 2025 NBA draft. But you look at that game against the Nets, the Raptors, it's like if something good happens, something bad happens, where Barnes returns, and then RJ was a late scratch. He had an illness. Jakob Poeltl remains out with that groin injury. He's day-to-day right now. Davion Mitchell even popped up on the injury report with a shoulder issue. And, of course, Manuel Quickley remains sidelined with an UCL sprain, pardon me. We don't know when he's going to be back. There's no timetable for his return, and then there's no timetable for Bruce Brown's return, as he was expected to be back a couple weeks ago during that road trip. That never happened, and he remains out. So all in all, it's like, yeah, the Raptors, they got Barnes back. They got some guys back, but this team is still depleted. And really, it's going to be interesting to see how this team fares with Barnes back in the mix, because I thought they were going to win against the Nets, who were missing some key players of their own, and they were favored for the first time all season. The Raptors were, but they still ended up losing that ball game. So I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't know if guys are going to, be out for long in terms of quickly. Brown, RJ, it's probably just like an illness. He'll probably be back for Sunday. And then we'll see how much time Pirtle misses, because we know how bad of a team this is without Pirtle as well. So it's going to be interesting. But you look at that game, I know Darko's been getting a lot of criticism, and, definitely if Darko's going to make some of those lineup changes and do some of the things that he's doing, the Raptors are going to be in prime position to lose a lot of games. It was nice to see the Raptors roll out their youngest starting lineup ever, but those experimental lineups, we saw it. They looked a part of that. Like it was a lot of sloppiness, and the Raptors were never able to get into rhythm. But guys, that's the reality. If the Raptors keep on losing and, they rack up the L's, we're going to get to a point towards the end of the season where we are going to have more of these experimental lineups, and you kind of just play guys to see what happens and stuff like that. But we'll see, where the Raptors are at right now. But I truly believe that it will be a race to the bottom. Like the Raptors, just like what we've seen, obviously injuries you can't control, but the injury bug hitting this team as hard as it has, we still don't know definitive returns to some key pieces, the biggest one being Emmanuel Quickley. The Raptors record being what it is, the schedule being as tough as it's going to be. We'll get to that in just a second. You get Darko making some of the calls and coaching the way that he has in certain positions that makes you think, like, is this team, they're clearly not valuing winning this game, just some of the in-game decisions that we've seen him make and stuff like that. It does seem like the Raptors have tipped their way here, that they are going to be playing for that lottery. They are going to be playing for the draft. And right now they are in a really good position, because we're going to look at the reverse standings here. And it's never too early to look at this stuff. But guys, like you see it right there, the Raptors are at the bottom. Right now, they're projected to get the number 4 pick in the NBA draft. And you see it right there. They have the 4th worst record. They're a half game up on the Hornets in the reverse standings right here. Right here. Philadelphia, like I don't think they're going to remain in the same tier as the Raptors. But right now, you look at this bottom tier, these teams are amongst each other. Hornets, Raptors, who are ahead of them, Jazz, Pelicans, Wizards. As you look at it right there, like the Raptors are a lot closer to the bottom than I had expected at this point. Like they're right there, right? They're in that radius of these bottom teams. So it's like, I get fans want to win. I get it sucks to lose, but the Raptors are in such an ideal position now to just continue to bottom out here. 3-7 in their last 10. They've lost 6 in a row. Like the Raptors are in a solid position here, guys, where it's like they can get a top 5 pick. Like right now, they'd be projected again to get the number 4 pick. And I know Scottie Barnes, we all thought he was going to be out longer, and clearly that would have helped the tanking case, because this is a much better team with Barnes. But like if the Raptors still stumble here and they're still missing guys and they're racking up these losses, their schedule's not getting any easier. Like even if guys are healthy and they're sporadically playing and they don't play all at once, like I could still see the Raptors losing a bunch of these games. Again, I was under the impression they were going to beat the Nets, but they lose that game, and really like that does them wonders in the reverse standings. It might not matter now, but it will matter when push comes to shove and you're trying to beat out all these other teams when you position yourself in the bottom. So I always said the Raptors had a leg up over teams that I think are going to find themselves at the bottom once the year comes to a close. Teams like the Bulls, the Nets, the Blazers. The Raptors have some cushion right now, right? So they have put themselves in a nice position. And right now, like this is the best move on the chessboard for this basketball team. despite what they do at the deadline, like none of that, despite who's healthy, who's available, none of that matters in terms of like what this team's priority and focus should be. And that's not go for it, not go for the plan, and just kind of hover around losing these games and being at that bottom, because it is going to help this team in the long haul. So I think the Raptors have put themselves in a good position here in terms of losing these games. And, really, when you look at the Raptors schedule, you got the Rockets, who've been one of the best teams in the West. They got the Knicks. They got the Grizzlies. They got the Hawks. They got the Celtics. Like, the Raptors are not going to win another game in all likelihood to end the year. Like, that is insanely difficult. Okay, then you got the Nets. They'll probably beat them this time around. They got the Magic. They're probably going to have Banchero by then. You got the Bucks, who have been playing really well. The Knicks, the Cavs. Okay, a winnable game here against the Pistons. The Warriors, maybe they figure it out by then. The Celtics, the Bucks, the Magic, the Hawks. The Hawks have been a good team. And then the Pelicans, and then the Wizards. So you probably have like 4 wins there in the entire month of January, if they don't slip up against, some of those lesser teams. So it's not going to get easy for this Raptors team. They are going to continue to struggle. They are going to continue to lose games. And again, they're probably not going to be 100%. We don't know when Quickly's coming back. We don't know when Bruce Brown's coming back. We don't know what other injuries are going to magically pop up or hit this team with kind of how things have gone. So we'll see what the Raptors end up doing at the trade deadline. It doesn't seem like this team is going to trade Poeltl, which definitely makes them worse. Maybe they can survive and remain a bottom team without trading Poeltl, and then they keep him for next season. And maybe they can offload a Bruce Brown and Boucher instead. What is going to happen with Bruce Brown? So it was reported by Grange, and it's becoming more and more apparent that the Raptors aren't going to trade Jakob Poeltl. And I've gone into more detail about that. There's pros and cons to it, but I think ultimately it definitely could make sense if you hold off from Poeltl, because if this team does believe they can bounce back next season, which if they get lucky in the draft is a pretty good possibility, you need a center, you keep Poeltl, and then you're looking to make some noise next season. However, I do think the Raptors are going to still somewhat be busy at the deadline. And I think, they're going to try to trade Bruce Brown and Chris Boucher. Now, who's going to be more likely to be traded? I did a separate video the other day looking at the likelihood of it all. And this report by ESPN NBA insider Bobby Marks, who appeared on the Raptors show with Blake Murphy and Matt Bonner, suggests that it could be Chris Boucher because of the contract that he's on. So basically, Bobby Marks appeared on the Raptors show, and he did mention that Brown's $23 million contract makes it harder to move than a $9 to $14 million contract, which Marks called the sweet spot. And by the way, Boucher's on a $10.8 million expiring deal. So definitely easier to move and could be a lot more attractive for a team to trade for. Marks went on to say, I think Chris Boucher's contract is that sweet spot. I think Chris has a little bit more value than Bruce Brown right now. And Marks also mentioned that Brown's value has dropped, and Toronto might have to play things out into the offseason, saying he's probably had a little more value last year when he was in Indiana, or maybe right when you got him in Toronto to try to flip him again. What Toronto has to look at, does Bruce Brown have more value to us if we hold on to him? And maybe we wait until the offseason, and maybe there's some sign and trades that may materialize. And then Marks went on to say, I want to see Bruce Brown play. I want to see where he is health-wise. I want to see where his knee is. Like, there is a lot of different factors. If I'm going to trade a couple seconds and maybe 2 players for him, I want to know what we're getting back, Mark said. So obviously Mark's talking on behalf of the teams that are going to be, in conversation with the Raptors over a potential trade. And what he says makes complete sense. Like, right now, I got to agree with this. Like, it's what I said in my previous video. Boucher is a lot easier to trade. So in essence, he has more value than Brown because he's playing. You know what you're going to get for him. His contract is easy to move. Whereas Bruce Brown, he's in a harder contract range, which makes things tricky under the whole new CBA. And also, like, you don't know where Brown is health-wise. He hasn't played all season. He's coming off knee surgery. And unless Brown comes back and restores his value and shows you what he can give you, are teams really going to take a chance? Like Mark said, he didn't even mention a first-round pick by even giving away second-rounders and players to get Brown in return when you don't know how is he going to look, what his health status is going to be for the rest of the season, and if he's even the same player, the old Bruce Brown that helped the Denver Nuggets and that played for the Indiana Pacers before coming to Toronto. So those are all valid points. And until Bruce Brown doesn't make his on-court return and proves that he still got it, there's going to be doubt about where's he at and where's his game at. So I think it may, in fact, be tricky. And there's definitely a possibility now, especially if Brown doesn't return anytime soon and we're into the new year and he still hasn't come back, that the Raptors might have no choice but to hold on to him and then look into sign and trade opportunities in the summer. Because I don't think the Raptors are going to get what they intended for Bruce Brown. Like, if you didn't get what you wanted for Bruce Brown last trade deadline, you're not going to get what you're hoping for now when the dude hasn't played. So hopefully he can come back soon, but I don't think we're going to see Bruce Brown until next year. The report came out from Grange that he was going to come back on that road trip. You thought he was going to come back sometime in December. It felt like Emmanuel Quickley was the furthest away, but really, we don't know when Brown's coming back along with Quickley. So it's hard to move a guy like that. So again, there could be a situation here where the Raptors don't move Brown because they simply can't get a decent enough haul in return. So then at that point, you got to wait it out. You're not going to just trade him for the sake of trading him and get lowballed in a deal. We know Masai Ujiri doesn't operate like that. So it's looking likely that Chris Boucher is the one who's going to be on the move. And right now, he seems the likeliest to be dealt because of the Raptors' reported hesitancy of trading Jakob Poeltl. And now this report from Bobby Mark suggesting that, that number is just too tricky of a number to move. And Bruce Brown has not been available. And they say the best ability is availability. And Bruce Brown, the more he remains on the sideline, it's going to be awfully tough to move him and get what you want back in a deal. So it might end up being a quiet trade deadline for the Raptors. And Boucher, that name seems to be the popular one right now. If you had to bet on somebody who the Raptors are going to trade at the deadline. And Boucher, because he's making 10.8 expiring deal, he's a guy who could add value to a playoff team's bench. It seems like that's the most realistic pathway right now for a deal when talking about the Raptors trade scenarios at the upcoming trade deadline. So we'll see if things change. We'll see if Brown comes back soon. But right now, it seems like Bruce Brown's trade value has taken a significant hit because of offseason knee surgery and him not being able to get out there on the court. And he has yet to play the season as he remains sidelined. So let me know your thoughts, guys. What do you think is going to happen with Brown? Do you think the Raptors are going to end up making any sort of move at the deadline? Who would you put your money on when it comes to the Raptors trading somebody at the trade deadline? Let me know your thoughts. And we'll see how that whole scenario plays out. But guys, that is going to conclude today's show. Thank you so much for watching. Please drop a like on the video. It does help it a ton. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And once again, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your favorite podcast, Apple, iTunes, Spotify. Your support is greatly appreciated. The Raptors have a few days off. They'll be back in action on Sunday when they host Fred VanVleet and the Houston Rockets. And we'll see how the Raptors close things out. They got a few games left in 2024. And we'll see if they can snap that 6-game losing streak or if that losing streak just continues to get bigger and bigger and potentially hits double digits. Because right now, you look at their schedule, it may in fact be in their future of a double-digit losing streak. But guys, let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching. That is it for me. It's Luke signing off. I will catch you all again in the next one. Stay safe.